Hello and welcome to Revit for BIM training seminar. This is session 1, the basics, part 6, floors, ceilings and editing walls. Okay, back to where we were before. We were looking at the relationships between windows and doors and how we can lock and constrain objects together. Okay, so far we've been placing, just jump to 3D view, we've been placing objects into other objects, and these are parametrically linked. The sizes of windows and doors and certain types of objects are controlled within their family type, and we've seen this already. When you go into edit types, you can see that the dimensions are there. So if you need to change a size, you duplicate. We've talked about that already. So the size is defined within the parameters of that object. So that's one type of object. That's one type of family type. We're going to look at a different type of inputting now, where you define the size yourself by sketching the boundary. So and this is something that can confuse people. Okay, so first thing we're going to do, jump to level 0, so we're looking down on the space, and this next way of inputting applies to such things like walls, floors, ceilings, and you'll see what I mean when I click the button. So here is the floor tool. If we just click down quickly, architectural, structural, floor by face, we're going to do architectural for now. Okay, now the first thing to notice is the screen grays out and you have a large modify create floor boundary tab, so it's telling you what you're doing now. You're creating the boundary of the floor, and notice this, the large cross and the large tick. You are locked within this tool at the moment. Escaping will not get you out. The only way to come out of this tool is by either pressing the cross or pressing the tick when you are finished. This often throws people at first, and people panic because a lot of the buttons are greyed out along the ribbon. People forget that they've pressed it, and in their panic they do not see that this tab is waiting for them at the top here. So to come out, press the cross if you're unhappy with it. I'll go back in there. Now there are various options within here for creating a floor. We're going to be creating a floor system, beam and block as default, but of course there are a few in there. There are not many to choose from first. Okay, so first thing to notice is I can just use the line tool, and I'm going to randomly define the boundary of a floor like this. Now the important thing here is making sure that the end of the last line touches the start of the first line, so you've got a closed shape, and in doing so I can now press the tick, quickly jump to 3D mode to show what we've got, and we've got a random floor where the base of the floor is coming out or from beneath 0, so it's 225 millimeters thick, and the top is 0 and it's moving downwards by 225, so the datum is referring to the top of the element. And that is so if you're introducing stuff like office furniture, etc. onto this floor, you don't need to be thinking about the system that you're placing it onto. Okay, so obviously this isn't a very useful shape, so I can either delete it or I can select it and press edit boundary. I can also do various things like put split lines and point heights within it as well, but we're not going to cover those for now. I'm just going to edit its boundary, and it goes back to the pink boundary defining point here. I'm just going to sweep across these and hit delete. Okay, using the 2D line tools is a bit of an art form at first when you're getting used to it. There are a couple of little quick tricks I can show you. For instance, if I have a line that does this, this and this. So I'm just being quite careful using my snap markers, but I haven't joined those two lines together. If I want to join those two lines together, I can use trim and extend to corner, and I can click on that line and click on that line, and they will join neatly in the corner. Just going to undo that a little bit. You can use the same type of tool if you want to do an inset, where I click on that and I click on that and I get a join. So it's a nice quick way of doing it. If I was to drag this line further on and I wanted to, say, tidy this corner up a little bit, I can use the same tool and I click on the parts of the line I want to keep and I get back. I'll just repeat that. I'm just going to undo, click on that line and click on that line, and by doing so you click on the part of the line that you want to remain, because if I was to click on that line and that line, you see what happens there. So if you come from an AutoCAD background, that's actually contrary to what you naturally want to do. Okay, I'm going to remove those two lines and I am going to finish off like that. Right, so if I press tick now, again I will see that I have a fully finished floor. Okay, let's see. If we jump to level 1, let's repeat the same thing. We'll put a floor system in again, but this time we're going to do it a lot quicker. So this time the datum is the first floor, and so the top of the floor will be at level 1. Let's use this tool this time, the Pick Walls tool. Now this allows you to use existing geometry to define the edges of the wall, and notice this tick point here extending to the wall core. Depending on what system you're using, you might want to take it into the structural system instead of the face of the wall, and we'll leave that on for now. And this is very simple. I just select the walls I want to do, it creates the shape, and I hit tick. I get this pop up here that says the Revit floor overlaps highlighted walls. Would you like to join the elements together? I'll go yes for now. Okay, so what have we created here? If I jump to the 3D view, it's quite hard to demonstrate. A nice way of seeing what you've done here is on the top toolbar there is a section line. You can also access this from the View tab, and I click once, I click twice, and I get a section line. That section now appears in the project browser, and I can see now a section through my building, and you can see what it's doing here. At the moment the level of detail is set to coarse, which is down here on the bar next to where the scale is referred to. If I click it to fine, I start seeing those systems and how they're made up. So it's not perfect yet, but we're not being particularly tidy at the moment. Okay, so that is floors. A ceiling, let's jump to level 0. A ceiling is defined in a different way. First thing I want to try and do is let's get a few interior walls going. So go to the Architecture tab, click on Wall, and let's change it to an interior wall type, which would be something like a stud partition wall. And if you're clicking along, just randomly create some shapes. I've turned off my chain here, which makes doing single walls a little easier. And you can see how quickly you can put these in. As I'm putting them in, the wall height has naturally dropped to level 1, so the tops of the walls are picking up where that level 1 is. So escape out of there. We just need a few windows, a few rooms to demonstrate the next thing now. Okay, so let's go to the ceilings tool. It's very similar to before. it wants to go to automatic sealing. Let's just use sketch sealing at first, and I'll show you what that is. You'll see it's very similar to before. You can create lines, you can create rectangles if it's a rectangular room. I can just do that. But notice over here in the properties, the datum is still level 0, and I'm defining the ceiling height as 2,600 millimeters above level 0. Room bounding is ticked. Now what that means is it's a way of calculating the usable volume of the room once you've put in the hung ceiling. So I'm just going to click, and again you can see the large cross and tick, which means I'm locked into this tool until I hit the tick. Now, because we are on a floor plan looking down, we cannot see that ceiling. It is above the height of the camera, and it is obviously you'd need to be looking upwards to see that ceiling. Our camera is roughly waist height looking downwards. So we have reflected ceiling plans here, so if I jump to the level 0 reflected ceiling plan, I can now see that ceiling. Okay, go back to the floor plan, start the ceiling tool again, which is on the architecture tab, and this time we'll use the automatic sealing. Now we will get a warning each time we do this, but just bear with us a second, and I'll do this once and show you what I mean. If I click in here now, it's automatically finding that room, and I get a none of the created elements in the visible is visible in floor plan 0. Okay, so that's fine. There's no large cross or tick to come in here. This is automatic, and it's a very quick way of doing it. So I'll close that down. A better way of putting ceilings in is going to the ceiling plan. Obviously level 0 ceiling plan. If I turn on the ceiling tool, I can now start clicking in here, and it looks like nothing has happened really, but we can see from our section, I just double clicked on the section header, but you can also come down here and go to section in the project browser. You can see that you've now got a void space above the ceilings. Of course you can change the heights if you need to, make it 2,700, and that will jump up a little bit there. So that's ceilings. So floors and ceilings using this define the boundary option are very similar things. Defining the boundary can also affect your walls, and we'll quickly look at that before the end of this section. I like to do this in 3D view, so jump to the 3D view on the top toolbar. Select one of the walls, maybe one of the ones that hasn't got windows in it. If I select that, again now I can see through and see what's going on underneath. But notice this, when I select a wall I get the option to edit its profile. Click on it and I get a pink line, and I get my large cross and tick again. So same sort of thing, I can define the wall by its outer boundary. So instead of it being a rectangular straight wall, I can start making some changes to it. So let's just do some quick changes here. I'm going to introduce an arc across there, and then I'm going to use that arc there and trim that down to there. So using the trim tool you can see how quick that is. Click on that and you can see I've got a change like that. It's not particularly architecturally useful change, but this is just a demo. I can select it again. I could at this point reset the profile and take it back to its original, which is quite a nice feature, but I'm going to edit it further. I'm going to edit the profile, and this time I'm going to introduce a hole in the wall. So if you've got an outer boundary, you can place an inner hole, and you can see all the dimensions are there for you to be accurate with, and press the tick and I get a hole in the wall. So this video covers using this edit boundary and boundary definition objects So you can see how similar they all are, but the main thing to take away is when you see the large tick and the large cross, you are locked within that tool and you must press the large cross or the large tick to come out of it. Okay, please find the next video. Thank you.